There are still 28 days until my wedding with Xiao Yan. Everyone in the capital knows that I, Wei Mingluan, am the legitimate daughter of General Wei from a prestigious military family. I was destined to marry Xiao Yan, the young lord of the Duke of Jin's manor, and become the future duchess. But just today, my personal maid Shuang Yu came running back in tears to report that the Duke's manor was holding a grand wedding ceremony. The groom was my betrothed husband Xiao Yan, and the bride was his cousin-in-law Liu Fuyi, who had been widowed for 1 year and 3 months. I heard that the old madam of the Duke's manor announced publicly that Liu Fuyi was pregnant and had no one to rely on, and that Xiao Yan, as her cousin-in-law, was deeply loyal and should look after her. Therefore, they would welcome her into the family first with the status of equal wife. Equal wife, looking after her, what a high-sounding excuse. That deceased cousin was a cavalry captain personally bestowed by the late emperor who died on the battlefield, his body not yet cold. I leisurely combed my hair in front of the bronze mirror, inserting a red gold coiling dragon hairpin bestowed by my father into my hair. The dragon claws were fierce and bold, as if about to break through the mirror. Shuang Yu grabbed me, her voice trembling like a sieve. "Miss Yu, what are you going to do?" I smoothed out the last wrinkle on my lapel, the corners of my lips curving into an extremely faint smile, colder than ice and snow. What am I going to do? Naturally, I am going to congratulate my fiancé and his cousin's wife on their happy union, and they even have a precious child for such a momentous occasion. How could I, the legitimate fiancé, be absent? I must personally deliver a grand gift to preserve my Wei family's dignity. Today, I will make the entire Duke of Jing's manor know that the Wei family's reputation is not for them to trample upon. They want to hold their celebration with grace and splendor. I will personally turn it into an utter funeral. Shuang Yu's tears flowed ceaselessly. Looking at that exquisitely beautiful yet coldly cruel face in the mirror, she was too frightened to say more. "Miss, the Duke's manor has gone too far in bullying us. We should immediately ask the general and the young master to step forward and dissolve the engagement. If you go alone, won't you just become a laughing stock to them?" I picked up the silk ribbon. In my sharply outlined brow peaks, a calculating gleam flickered in my keen eyes. "Shuang Yu, you are wrong again. The ones who will humiliate themselves are the Xiao family's reasoning. Since they dared to openly host this banquet today, they've long memorized foolproof excuses, waiting for us to come crying and making a scene so they can play out a show of righteousness and consideration. If I go there to cry and make a fuss, I'll only confirm the reputation that Wei family's daughter is narrow-minded and burning with jealousy." I stood up. The dark cyan cloud brocade workrobe I wore was embroidered with subtle cloud patterns, restrained yet solemn. This garment was prepared for me by grandmother years ago, worn when she taught me to keep my heart still as water and stand upright as a mountain. I cannot go to make a scene. I am going to pass judgment, prepare the congratulatory gift I've arranged for the Xiao family. Let's go give young Lord Xiao and his new wife a grand display of dignity before all under heaven. Shuang Yu looked at the flames about to spread like wildfire in my eyes, and finally understood. This wasn't sorrow. This was unwavering resolve. She nodded firmly, and turned to make preparations. I walked to the window. The sunlight in the capital was just right. "Xiao Yan, Liu Fuyi, your carefully calculated open scheme. You thought you could force me to back down. In my eyes, Wei Mingluan's eyes, it is nothing but an ugly farce I've personally woven, about to bring down the curtain on you. How could this play be complete without me?" The Wei family's carriage was the standard military vehicle my father always kept ready when going to war. Though lacking the elegance of vermilion wheels and ornate canopies, it bore the stern majesty of battlefield authority. I sat upright in the carriage, eyes closed to rest my mind, my heart like a frost-covered moon over bedrock, holding a heavy long case crafted from black golden phoebe wood, my nervous fingertips ice cold. The carriage traveled straight from the general's mansion in the north of the city onto the main street of the prestigious Duke of Jin's residence in the east. Passers-by stopped in their tracks one after another. This military vehicle, symbolizing the iron-blooded frontier appearing on the festive main street of the capital at this moment, seemed particularly out of place. "Look, that is the carriage from General Wei's mansion. Isn't the eldest Miss Wei's wedding next month? Why is she here today? Don't you know yet? I heard that young Lord Xiao took his newly widowed cousin-in-law Lady Liu as his equal wife today. What? How absurd. How could a daughter of the Wei family tolerate such humiliation? Those murmuring voices pierced through the carriage curtain like sharp blades into my ears. The corner of my lips curved slightly. Very good. The rumors had already warmed up. The carriage stopped in front of the Duke of Jing's residence. Red lanterns hung high before the Duke's gates. Celebration firecrackers sounded one after another. Guests flowed in like tides. The festivities at their peak. The welcoming servant at the entrance saw the Wei family's military carriage. The smile on his face instantly froze, as if someone had cast a paralysis spell on him. Then he scrambled inside to report, "I didn't wait for anyone to come greet or stop me." Shuangyu lifted the carriage curtain, and I stepped down gracefully while holding her hand, like an exquisite sculpture. When my serene dark cyan attire appeared before the Crimson Palace gates, the clamor was instantly silenced. The air seemed to freeze into ice, and all the guests' gazes fell upon me with scrutiny, shock, sympathy, and amusement, all at once. I lifted my chin, straightened my spine, and wore a perfectly composed smile that gave nothing away, ascending those dragon-carved stone steps one by one. I wasn't wearing a wedding dress, nor did I bring a dowry. My presence here wasn't that of a bride, but of a general inspecting the frontier. Steward Xiao at the entrance turned paler than paper, rushing out in a flurry with sweat all over his forehead. "Miss Wei Yu, why have you come today?" He tried to stop me, his voice almost breaking into sobs. I smiled faintly, but that smile never reached my eyes. "Steward Xiao, today is a joyous occasion for the Duke's manor. As the young master's fiancé, I've come to offer my congratulations. Surely I don't need the 3 letters and 6 rights just to pick a day for that." That one sentence left him speechless for quite a while. The word fiancé enunciated it clearly, slowly, and deliberately, yet it struck like a heavy hammer. It slammed hard against the wall of hypocrisy that the Duke of Jing's manor had built so high. I paid him no more attention and walked straight toward the inner hall. The guests automatically parted to make way for me. They watched as if looking at an unsheathed blade, ready to witness the moment it drew blood. I wasn't here for redemption, I was here for reckoning. The moment I stepped into the wedding hall, the clamorous atmosphere was completely drained, leaving only dead silence. In the center of the wedding hall, Xiao Yan wore a bright red wedding robe. He should have looked dashing, but now his face was drenched in sweat. His eyes panicked, not daring to meet my gaze. Beside him, Lu Fuyi was also dressed in red. The slightly bulging belly beneath her veil and her hand tightly gripping Xiao Yan's sleeve exposed all their disgrace and scheming. Seated at the head of the hall were Xiao Yan's parents, the Duke of Jin, and the Duchess, along with old Madame Xiao, who was presiding over the ceremony. On old Madame Xiao's impeccably maintained face, that smugness and contempt toward me hadn't even had time to be put away before it froze completely. She obviously thought I would only cry at home, rather than dare to barge into Mingluan alone. Xiao Yan finally made a sound. With a guilty hoarseness, I looked around the room, my gaze sweeping across one stunned face after another. Finally stopping on Xiao Yan, "Young master, congratulations on your happy occasion." My voice carried a hint of teasing tenderness. Today, the young master and sister-in-law Lu are happily wed. As the young master's fiancé, I should come to offer my congratulations. I came in a hurry and didn't prepare a proper gift. I hope the old madam, the duke, and the madam won't take offense. My demeanor was humble and courteous beyond reproach. Seeing me being so magnanimous, the Xiao family actually breathed a sigh of relief. They thought my confidence had been drained, and I was planning to swallow my pride to keep my position as the legal wife. The old Madame Xiao cleared her throat, resuming her elder's air of controlling everything. "It is good that Mingluan is here. You can be so sensible. Understanding Jingxing and Fuyi's difficulties, I am greatly comforted. Rest assured, Fuyi enters first, but she'll only ever be an equal wife. When you marry in next month, you'll still be the rightful young madam of the Duke's manor. We will never treat the Wei family unfairly." Her words were resounding, attempting to frame this scandal as family benevolence. The surrounding guests began to whisper. Miss Wei indeed has the bearing of a great family, able to endure what ordinary people cannot endure. Such grievances, truly a virtuous wife. Listening to these remarks, the smile on my face deepened. Virtuous wife? Sorry, but I, Wei Mingluan, have never had anything to do with those two words. The old madam's teachings are wise. I responded along with his words. We daughters of the Wei family have always put family honor first, and know what is proper. As I spoke, I gave Shuangyu a look, and she immediately stepped forward to open the black gold-threaded Nanmu wood case in her hands. The moment the case opened, the eyes of all the guests were drawn to it. Inside lay a jade object, entirely dark green, carved with ancient beast patterns. It looked like an exquisite jade ruyi, yet its overall outline resembled a split tiger tally, exuding a heavy, solemn killing intent that defied ordinary standards. Is this ink jade, heavens? This jade color must be old pit material from the far northern frozen lands. This craftsmanship faintly resembles the form of military tiger tallies. Definitely not an ordinary congratulatory gift. The eyes of the Xiao family were instantly lit up by the jade's glow. The greed in old Madame Xiao's eyes, especially, was almost tangible. I personally lifted the heavy jade ruyi, walked up to Xiao Yan and Liu Fuyi, and said, "Young master sister-in-law, this is the congratulatory gift I present on behalf of the family. May you be united in heart forever, and be blessed with children soon." I deliberately said the 4 words, "May you have children soon," extremely slow and heavy, like iron falling to the ground. Liu Fuyi's body under the bridal veil suddenly trembled. Xiao Yan stiffly reached out to take that jade object, yet slightly swayed due to its unusual weight. There was no joy on his face at all. I forcibly stuffed it into his hands, then turned to Madame Xiao on the high seat, my posture so submissive it was heartbreaking. "Madam, you said you wanted me to be understanding of sister-in-law's difficulties, and Mingluan naturally understands. Sister-in-law was widowed young, and now she is secretly pregnant, all alone and helpless, truly pitiful. The young lord values love and loyalty, willing to take on this responsibility and look after his sister-in-law, such a benevolent act. Mingluan admires immensely." These words of mine completely laid bare the shameful cover the Xiao family dared not speak of. Madame Xiao's expression completely relaxed, looking smug and self-satisfied. Her gaze toward me was already one of assured victory. "Good child, it is best that you can think this way. In the future, you'll surely be fit to be the mistress of the Duke's manor. I will petition the Emperor myself to grant you an official title of nobility." The gazes of the guests around me had already shifted from watching a show to sympathy, and then to a barely perceptible disdain. The pitiful Wei family daughter would ultimately have to submit to power and moral coercion. Very well, the hunter had successfully disguised herself as bait. The deference on my face didn't waver, but my tone carried a perfectly measured, utterly innocent confusion. "It is just," I let out a soft sigh, as if suddenly recalling something extremely important. "Mingluan, there is a small matter I don't understand. I'd like to ask the old madam and the Duke to clarify it for me." Old Madame Xiao was in high spirits. She waved her hand. "Go ahead and ask, no harm in it." She thought I was going to ask about the dowry specifications, and had already prepared a set of excuses to brush me off. I looked at Lu Fuyi's swollen belly and said with feigned concern, "I just heard the servant women saying, 'Sister-in-law is already over 3 months pregnant. Is that right?'" As soon as these words came out, there was an imperceptible pause throughout the wedding hall. Old Madame Xiao's smile froze for half a second, but she still nodded. "That is right. This child has a hard fate, alas. But after all, it is the flesh and blood of our Xiao family. There is no reason for it to be left outside." She tried to gloss over it again. Although the guests had doubts in their hearts, they dared not pursue the matter given the occasion. But I, Wei Mingluan, was determined to tear this fig leaf to shreds. 3 months pregnant. I raised my right hand, counting on my fingers like a child, my face serious as I calculated. This was truly an unheard of miracle. My voice was soft, yet clear enough to reach the ears of everyone present. I remember it crystal clear. My cousin, that is, my cousin-in-law's late husband, set out with the army last spring, contracted dysentery at the border, and died of illness in the military camp. Counting from the day of his death to today, when the Xiao family is holding this grand wedding celebration, it is exactly 1 year and 3 months. That is a full 15 months. No more, no less. With every word I spoke, the Xiao family's faces grew a shade paler. Xiao Yan's hands gripped that heavy jade tightly, his knuckles white as if he would crush it to pieces. Liu Fuyi was trembling like a leaf in the cold wind, nearly collapsing to the ground. The expressions on the faces of all the guests transformed from watching a spectacle to utter shock, disbelief, and barely suppressed disgust. Everyone knew pregnancy lasts 10 months. The gap between 15 months and 3 months is already a scandal that needs no naming, but I insist on naming it. I will use the most innocent tone to splash this filthiest dirty water on the Xiao family's doorway in front of all the nobles of the capital. I raised my head and looked at old Madame Xiao on the high seat with the purest, most puzzled gaze of my life. Old Madame, you are the head of a noble family, well versed in poetry and books. Can you tell me an ordinary woman needs 10 months of pregnancy to reach full term? Yet the one in sister-in-law's belly could actually stay in there for a full 15 months. This is simply a miracle that defies the laws of nature. Could it be that sister-in-law obtained some immortal elixir from a master, or could it be that the one in her belly is a heaven-sent prodigy, able to stay alone for 15 months? Boom! My words fell like thunder from the 9th heaven, completely blowing up the wedding hall. Dead silence. Desperate dead silence. Everyone's gazes were like countless poison-tipped daggers, repeatedly stabbing back and forth across the faces of Xiao Yan, Liu Fuyi, and the 3 masters of the Xiao family. The joyous wedding hall instantly became an execution ground for scandal exposure. You venomous woman spouting nonsense! How dare you spread such wicked lies here? Old Madame Xiao was so furious her liver and gallbladder were about to burst. She suddenly jumped up from her chair, pointing at me, her finger trembling. I smiled calmly, neither flinching nor avoiding. Old Madam, when has Mingluan ever spoken nonsense? Mingluan is merely asking you to clarify and lay out the facts. Could it be that I remembered the date wrong, that cousin didn't pass away at the beginning of spring last year? I looked at the Duke of Jin, whose face had turned ashen, my voice carrying military precision. Duke, you are a key general of the border defense, and cousin served under your command. His death benefits and military deregistration documents were personally signed and submitted to the Ministry of War by you, Duke. Do you remember what date it was? The Duke of Jin's face turned a purplish black with rage, yet he couldn't utter a single word. The military records are archived by the court. The evidence is irrefutable. Or could it be? My gaze fell like a blade upon the newlyweds clinging tightly to each other. I looked at Xiao Yan and spoke word by word, clear and cold. This child isn't cousin's posthumous child at all. Then, young Lord Xiao, can you tell me, the woman you are marrying today, whose bastard is she carrying in her belly? That devoted care of yours, was it truly the dying wish of my cousin who died on the battlefield, or was it your long-restrained illicit affair? This final question, like a sword of judgment, ruthlessly pierced through the Xiao family's reputation. With a loud clang, the ink jade ruyi in Xiao Yan's hands finally slipped from his grip, falling to the ground and shattering into pieces. When the jade broke, it revealed the outline of a small military tally, about a foot long, carved inside. Though it was just an outline, it was enough to make everyone present who knew what they were looking at gasp in shock. Not only had they committed adultery between uncle and sister-in-law, they had also tried to use a counterfeit military tally-shaped jade piece to deceive everyone, coveting the wedding gift from the daughter of the Wei family's military minister. The Duke of Jin's mansion's reputation was shattered even more thoroughly than that jade tally. Ah, Liu Fuyi let out a shrill scream, violently tore off her red veil, revealing a face full of resentment and pallor. She pointed at me, her voice hoarse. Wei Mingluan, you jealous and vicious woman, You are spouting slander just because you can't have Xiao Yan's love. You want to destroy our innocence and reputation. Even at this moment, she still tried to use love to gain sympathy. I let out a cold laugh, my voice suddenly rising, drowning out his screams. Every word carrying the fierce wind of the frontier, sharp beyond measure sigh. While my cousin's bones were not yet cold and his military records not yet filed away, you were secretly involved with his own cousin. You call this love. After conceiving that bastard child, you used the guise of being pitiful and lonely to claim the position of equal wife, humiliating the Wei family's reputation. You call this love. The affection you speak of is nothing but a fancy name for your immoral debauchery, your shameless act of disgracing the family, and your vicious scheme to use a bastard to steal the heir's position. Liu Fuyi, tell me, how is any of this affection? This is sin. My words lashed across Liu Fuyi's face like a whip. She swayed from the scolding, her eyes rolling back as she completely fainted in Xiao Yan's arms. Xiao Yan completely broke down. He held Liu Fuyi in terror, screaming at his parents seated in the main hall. Father, mother, hurry and throw this madwoman out. She is going to destroy us. Kick me out. I sneered disdainfully. Xiao Yan, you seem to have forgotten that I, Wei Mingluan, am the one holding our marriage contract, the fiancé about to be properly wed. Today, in front of all the guests in the capital, you've given my Wei family such great humiliation and surprise. Now you want to kick me out so you can close the doors and continue your illicit affair. Things aren't that simple in this world. I no longer looked at that disgusting pair, but turned to face the ashen-faced Duke of Jingguo and old Madame Xiao. My voice returned to calm, yet carried a chilling, killing intent that could freeze the cold wind itself. Old Madame Duke, today's events. Mingluan has seen everything clearly. There is no need to discuss this marriage anymore. I slowly took out a prepared annulment letter from my sleeve, along with a military pledge. Under everyone's gaze, I walked step by step to the incense altar and slammed the annulment letter heavily onto it. I, Wei Mingluan, hereby, in front of all the distinguished guests, formally announce that my engagement with Xiao Yan of the Xiao family is hereby void. From this moment on, we go our separate ways. Marriage matters shall have nothing to do with each other. From now on, I, Wei Mingluan, have no connection whatsoever with your Duke of Jingguo's manor. Me voice echoed throughout the wedding hall. All the guests were shocked, publicly initiating an annulment. This Wei family daughter was truly fierce to the extreme. Wei Mingluan, don't push your luck. How can marriage be decided at your whim? The Duke of Jingguo slammed the table, veins bulging at his temples. I looked at him coldly, my tone carrying the authority of the military law department. Duke, your nephew and sister-in-law have disregarded human ethics and tarnished the reputation of military officers. With such a scandal, you still have the nerve to discuss marriage with me. According to the laws of our great Zhou, when the groom's conduct is flawed and causes the engagement to be unfulfilled, the betrothal gifts must be returned tenfold, along with compensation for damage to the bride's reputation. But today, the Wei family doesn't want those worldly possessions. I pushed the copy of the military order to the front, pointing at a line of small text on it. This is the copy of the military order that my father signed for my cousin. When he joined the military campaign, one of the clauses states that if any family member tarnishes the military's honor, the family's merits shall be punished accordingly. The compensation the Wei family wants is simple. Within 3 days, I expect to see a confession memorial written personally by the Duke, delivered to His Majesty in your family's name. Admit the crimes of Xiao Yan and Liu Fuyi for violating military law and discipline, and voluntarily resign from the position of Border Army Commander-in-Chief, handing over military authority to the court for disposal. My words struck the Duke of Jing like a bolt from the blue. This wasn't just breaking off an engagement, this was demanding he give up half of his military power. You are asking for the impossible. Absolutely not. The Duke of Jin roared harshly. I smiled coldly. Duke, will you choose to resign voluntarily to preserve your family, or choose to face trial in court, exposing the crimes of adultery between uncle and sister-in-law, and forging military uniforms? Let it be known to everyone, and have His Majesty personally issue a decree to confiscate your property and strip your title. The choice is yours. I took one last look at that pair of man and woman collapsed on the ground, trembling in fear. There was no longer a ripple of emotion in my eyes as I turned and swept away. When I came, I was calm and composed, like the deep sea when I left. I was proud and unyielding, walking as if on level ground. Behind me were the howls and despair of the Xiao family, the uproar and awe of the guests, a scene that had completely become a laughingstock. Even a scandal involving the military power of the court. None of this had anything to do with me, Wei Mingluan, anymore. The moment I walked out of the gate of the Duke of Jin's mansion, the sunlight was blazing, shining on my pure gold-coiling dragon hairpin. Radiant light surrounded the ornament. After leaving the Duke of Jing's mansion, I didn't go straight home. The Wei family's military carriage didn't stop for a moment, heading straight for the imperial city. I got off at the palace gate and handed the annulment letter, the shattered pieces of the ink jade rui, and a secret memorial my father had prepared long ago to the captain of the imperial guards at the gate. When the captain saw the military carriage and the secret memorial stamped with the Wei general's mansion's private seal, his expression immediately turned grave, and he immediately had the item sent into the palace by fast horse. I stood quietly beneath the palace walls waiting. The scandal about the Duke of Jingguo's mansion spread through the capital like wildfire. Adultery between uncle and sister-in-law, a secret pregnancy, deception under the guise of taking an equal wife. The legitimate daughter of the Wei family publicly broke off the engagement and forced the Duke of Jin to resign in disgrace. Any single one of these incidents would be enough to make a noble family lose face completely, let alone all of them combined. In less than half a shichen, hurried footsteps came from within the palace gates. The captain of the imperial guard strode out, his face stern. In his hand was an imperial edict on bright yellow silk, stamped with the emperor's jade seal. Miss Wei, His Majesty has issued a decree. I knelt to receive the decree. The edict was simple by the grace of heaven. The emperor decrees. Duke of Jin Xiao Yan has been lax in governing his household and has disgraced his ancestors. His virtue has been found lacking. From this day forth I order him to reflect behind closed doors. He shall surrender the tiger talisman of the border army commander and shall not be involved in military affairs. His son Xiao Yan has violated moral principles. His engagement to Wei Mingluan is hereby annulled. He is demoted to commoner status and forbidden from holding office for life. Lady Liu Fuyi has behaved improperly and shall be sent to a nunnery to pray for her late husband's soul. She is forbidden from returning to the capital for life. A few brief words, yet they sentenced the first branch of the Jingguo Duke's mansion to death. Xiao Zhen lost his military power. Xiao Yan became completely useless. Liu Fuyi was sent to bitter cultivation, never to rise again, especially Xiao Zhen, who lost the real power of the border army commander. Even if he still held the empty title of duke, he was like a wolf with a broken spine, no longer a threat. A great weight lifted from my heart. This marriage, from beginning to end, was a probe by my father and the court's reformist faction against the Jingguo Duke's mansion. The Duke of Jin held heavy military forces. His achievements overshadowed the sovereign, yet the man himself was greedy and lecherous, lax in managing his household. My marriage agreement with Xiao Yan was originally for balance. Now it became a tool for collapse. What I wanted was never to marry into the Duke's mansion, but to use this humiliation to win my father an excellent opportunity to bring down his political enemy. I slowly stood up, a hint of relief on my face, and calmly bid farewell to the captain. Today's matter ended with thunderous force. When I returned to the mansion, my father, General Wei, had already received the news. He sat in the main hall in full military attire, no scolding, only praise. Well done, Mingluan. His tone was steady and powerful. A daughter of our family will never endure the slightest grievance, nor should she become anyone's chess piece in their games. This move of yours is more intimidating than if I had deployed 100,000 troops." My heart warmed. This is the family recognition I wanted. "Father, there is something your daughter wishes to ask of you next. I want to go to the Ministry of Rights and personally submit the annulment letter as the daughter of General Wei and request that the notice of the dissolved engagement be posted on the capital's public bulletin board." Father's eyes showed understanding as he laughed heartily. "Good, your father will handle this matter for you. I want the whole world to know that it wasn't the Xiao family who rejected me. It was I, Wei Mingluan, who rejected the Xiao family half." A month later, the capital's bulletin board displayed the marriage annulment document between the Xiao and Wei families, personally written by the Ministry of Rights. The text was clear, stamped with the ministry's official seal. Everyone knew that Miss Wei had gone to the ministry herself to handle this. The name Wei Mingluan was no longer that of the soon-to-be crown princess who would marry into the duke's mansion and swallow her grievances, but rather that of the fierce Wei family daughter who dared to expose scandals publicly, force the duke to back down, and tear up the marriage contract, refusing to marry into nobility. My reputation blazed through the entire capital like wildfire, while I began frequenting the Ministry of Rights and the Ministry of War, assisting father with official duties as the general's chief advisor. I was no longer a refined young lady waiting in her boudoir to be married off, but a force in the court that could not be ignored. One day, while I was organizing border military supply archives at the Ministry of Rights, Xiao Yan, the son of the Vice Minister of Rights, approached me on his own initiative. Xiao Yan, the heir of Duke Dingguo's manor, was known alongside the Xiao family as the twin Jade of the capital, but he was low-key, steady, and reserved a young talent recognized by the whole court. "Miss Wei, congratulations." He spoke, his voice carrying a calm strength, his eyes showing neither mockery nor pity, only pure admiration. I looked up with a slight smile. "Young Lord Chu, what is there to congratulate? I merely rid myself of a rotten romance." Xiao Yan shook his head and handed me the file I had been reviewing. "I congratulate Miss Wei for breaking free from the cage and winning yourself a broader playing field. The position of Border Army Commander under Duke Jingguo is now vacant. Undercurrents are already stirring in the court, and General Wei must be under even greater pressure." His words cut straight to the core. He knew the ultimate purpose behind everything I had done. I set down the file and looked him straight in the eye. "Young Lord Chu speaks plainly. What guidance do you have for me?" He gave a faint smile, his eyes clear and bright. "I wouldn't dare offer guidance. I merely wish to remind Miss Wei of something. If the child in Lu Fuyi's belly truly is Xiao Yan's bloodline, it would be easy enough to handle. But if what he is entangled with is some unknown secret between your late cousin and the Northwestern Border Army, then the fate of this child is where the real suspense lies." My heart skipped a beat. My late cousin died at the border from dysentery, but before he died, he was clutching a tattered military intelligence map. This was secret information my father gave me. I always thought Xiao Yan and Liu Fuyi were just having an affair, but I never imagined that child might be a living secret. "Young Lord Chu, what do you mean by that?" My voice deepened slightly. Xiao Yan gently waved his folding fan, his gaze profound, like cold stars in the night sky, Fei. "The meaning lies beyond words. Miss Wei, our Dingguo Duke Manor and General Wei's Manor are now in a position of advancing and retreating together. I came here hoping to play a second game of chess with Miss Wei, a grand game concerning the Northwestern military defense and the future of Great Zhou. Miss Wei, do you dare join hands with me?" He extended his hand. This time it wasn't about love, but pure cooperation. Looking at this composed yet deeply calculating man before me, I had thought my world only had revenge and settling scores left, but now a door to a broader world was opening before me. I reached out and gently grasped his hand. "Young Lord Chu, rather than calling it joining hands, it is better to call it conspiring for a great cause together." The fire of revenge no longer burns in my eyes, but rather a calm gleam of control over everything. My cooperation with Chu Xuan begins with a reorganized list of candidates for the Border Army Commander position. The court is endlessly arguing over the vacant positions from the Jingguo Duke's manor. The most popular candidates are naturally my father, General Wei, and another veteran, the Prince of Genbei. The Prince of Genbei commands a massive army with immense power once he takes over the commander position. My father's influence will be completely suppressed. Chu Shuyuan suggests we shouldn't compete head-on, but rather undermine them from the root. Prince of Genbei is suspicious by nature and intolerant of others. Chu Shuyuan points to a spot on the map in the study and tells me what he fears most isn't General Wei, but His Majesty's favor toward him. What we need to do is make His Majesty see a safer alternative than the Prince of Genbei. This alternative is Chu Zhuan himself. The Dingguo Duke's manor has been loyal for generations, but holds no real power. The military tally poses the least threat to the emperor. My task is to contact a key figure, Liu Fuyi, who is under house arrest in the nunnery. What Liu Fuyi knows is definitely not just her affair with Xiao Yan. I ponder, what secret lies between her and my late cousin that made the Xiao family risk total destruction just to marry her in as an equal wife? I personally brought Shuangyu to the Qingshu nunnery in the city outskirts. The environment inside the nunnery was austere. Liu Fuyi had already changed into a coarse gray cloth robe, no longer possessing her former charm. The moment she saw me, her eyes instantly shifted from lifelessness to venom. But that was quickly replaced by fear. Wei Mingluan, you vicious woman, how dare you come? See me, she shrieked, like a cornered beast. I sat calmly across from her, took a sip of tea. Liu Fuyi, you are nothing but a chess piece abandoned by your family now. I am not here to mock you, but to give you a chance to survive. Tell me, what secret is hidden in the child in your belly? And what exactly did you and your late cousin do at the frontier? Liu Fuyi's face turned deathly pale. She bit her lips hard and refused to speak. Before your cousin died, he was clutching a torn military intelligence map. Is this map related to the child in your belly? I threw out my heaviest bargaining chip. Liu Fuyi suddenly raised her head. Her eyes filled with utter horror. Her whole body was trembling. How do you know? My Wei family has been rooted in the military for generations. Do you think you can hide certain things from everyone? My tone was ice cold. Let me tell you the truth. Your cousin's death was far from a simple case of dysentery. Before he died, he discovered someone in the Xiao family was secretly selling off military grain. He tried to document it, but was silenced. And you, because you accidentally became pregnant with Xiao Yan's child, were forcibly married into the family under the title of equal wife by old Madame Xiao as a living witness to keep the Xiao family's grain selling scandal under wraps. Your child is the Xiao family's only stain, and also their only way out. Liu Fuyi's tears burst forth like a broken dam. She knew what I said was the truth. His love was nothing but a tool to cover up his family's crimes. I can tell you, but you must guarantee that I can survive with my child, fly far away, and never be controlled by the Xiao family again. She spoke almost pleadingly. I held up 3 fingers and pointed to the sky. I swear on the name of generations of loyal Wei family members. As long as you hand over the truth, you and your child will receive the Wei family's protection. The truth Liu Fuyi confessed was even more shocking than we had anticipated. The Xiao family wasn't just trafficking military grain, they had secretly colluded with the barbarian tribes in the northern frontier, smuggling a batch of military-grade iron ore out of the border. Liu Fuyi's late husband was killed by Xiao Zhen's scheme, disguised as dysentery, precisely because he had discovered this secret. The child in her womb was indeed Xiao Yan's, but the child's existence served as a tool for the Xiao family to silence the public and prevent Liu Fuyi from leaking secrets. I handed Liu Fuyi's testimony along with the ironclad evidence my father had long possessed to Chu Shuyuan. Chu Shuyuan then submitted a beautifully crafted watertight memorial to the emperor. The memorial didn't mention a single word about colluding with the enemy. It merely hinted subtly that the Duke of Jingguo's household had lax discipline and chaotic finances, raising concerns about potential military supply losses. At the same time, it proposed that to ensure border security, Chu Shuyuan, heir to the Duke of Dingguo's household, should temporarily assume the position of border army commander-in-chief to conduct a thorough investigation. The emperor was suspicious. He knew well that the Prince of Zhenbei held too much power and would never easily relinquish it, yet Chu Shuyan's harmless identity became the best choice. The decree was quickly issued. Chu Shuyuan, heir to the Duke of Dingguo, would temporarily assume the position of border army commander, departing immediately for the frontier to assist General Wei in handling military affairs. My father, General Wei, was granted the position of military supervisor, nominally an advisory role, but in reality holding great power, able to restrain Chu Shuyuan at any moment. This was Chu Shuyuan's game of chess. He had successfully circumvented the mountain that was the Prince of Zhenbei, and with a relatively low-profile stance, extended his hand into the core of military power. As for me, I became his most important and trusted ally under my arrangements. Lu Fuyi was quietly sent out of the capital. After her child was born, the Wei family would secretly look after them, and they would never appear before the world again. As for Xiao Yan, after being demoted to a commoner, he spent his days drowning in alcohol and soon fell into ruin. With this, my revenge had reached a perfect conclusion, but a new game of chess had only just begun. Half a month later, the Duke of Dingguo's household sent someone to the Wei residence to propose marriage. This time, it wasn't some perfunctory arrangement between noble families. Instead, Chu Shuyan came to the door personally. Dressed in casual attire, his manner respectful, he stood before me, his eyes carrying openness and sincerity. Miss Wei, last time we were conspiring for a great cause, but this time, I, Chu Shuyuan, am proposing to you as a husband. I know there is no foundation of love between us, but your decisiveness, wisdom, and boldness are more than enough to match everything my Duke Dingguo's manor has to offer. If you are willing to marry me, you'll have the final say in the inner courtyard of my Duke Dingguo's manor. In court affairs, we'll advance and retreat together. I promise you respect and trust for the rest of my life, with absolutely no grievances. I looked at him. He had no sweet words, only the most practical promises. This man was 100 times more powerful than Xiao Yan, and 100 times more honest than Xiao Yan. I smiled, a smile that was open and magnanimous. Good. Young Lord Chu, I'll marry you. 3 months later, Wei Mingluan put on her phoenix coronet and rosy clouds cape, with a dowry procession stretching 10 li, and was wed from the Wei general's manor. My wedding was 10 times grander and more magnificent than the one originally planned for Xiao Yan, because now the Wei family and Duke Dingguo's manor's union had become the most unshakable force in the court. The 8-carrier bridal sedan slowly proceeded along the main street of the capital. The sedan passed by the old site of the Dingguo Duke's manor, that once illustrious residence was now deserted, its gates tightly shut, bound with heavy iron locks. A world of difference contrast was silently playing out on this main street of the capital. I don't know if Xiao Yan is hiding in some dark corner right now, listening to the wedding music playing outside for me, but it no longer matters. They have long become dust, thoroughly crushed in my life. In front of the Duke of Dingguo's mansion, my new husband Chu Shuyan stood in bright red wedding attire, his posture tall and straight as a pine, waiting for me. He stepped forward, personally, kicked open the sedan door, and extended his hand to me. His hand was warm and strong, forming a stark contrast to my calmness at that moment. I placed my hand in his palm, and he gripped it tightly, leading me over the fire basin, walking down the red carpet, bowing to heaven and earth. Amid everyone's blessings, we were escorted into the bridal chamber. Red candles shone brightly, the curtains warm on this spring night. Chu Shuyan lifted my veil, looked at me, his eyes showing no amazement, but appreciation and solemnity. Mingluan, he spoke, his voice clear and resonant. From today on, you and I are husband and wife. I, Chu Shuyuan, hereby vow that I will never fail you in this life, nor fail the Wei family. I looked at him and smiled. Young master, so do I. I, Wei Mingluan, will also never fail your Duke of Dingguo's mansion, nor fail this game of chess under heaven. No lingering love, only the firmest promises and vows. I knew I had chosen the right person. I had won a brand new world.